think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Hi, I'm Sydney, and you're watching Sydney Shelves. I'm here today to do another book review for Someone That I Used to Know by Patty Blount. It comes out on August 7th. I got my copy for free from NetGalley, so thank you to Source Books. Let's get into it. Let's start with plot. The plot follows two main characters. First is Ashley. She was raped 2 years ago and is struggling to return to her daily life. The second point of view is her brother Derek, because even though he is not the victim, he is still traumatized from this situation because he's the one who stood by and didn't do anything to stop his sister's rapist. This book deals a lot with just rape culture in general and the way we as a society tend to stand by and just say, oh, boys will be boys, and let behaviors slide that really aren't okay. It was definitely a very important and necessary novel, and for most of the book, the message is very strong and it doesn't read overbearing or obnoxious. But there did come a point where it felt like the author was just trying to force her views upon you. This became particularly annoying during her diatribe on high school football. Like, I understand the character had an issue that happened during football season, but then she tries to have football canceled, like altogether, just the whole after school activity. And it just made me roll my eyes a lot. So I ended up giving plot 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next, let's get into characters. Like I mentioned before, there are two main characters, the first being our rape victim, Ashley. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with Ashley. I liked her because she was strong and she stood up for what she believed in. She wasn't just going to sit there and mope, but she was going to be active and take charge of her destiny. She was going to create change in the people that she interacted with, and I liked that. But there were times when her actions were just completely unreasonable. She thinks that she's triggered by certain things, but really she's just punishing certain people for certain actions. Not to say that she wasn't triggered, but there were certain times that she thought she was being triggered when really she was just kind of being a butthole. And it really bothered me, especially with her relationship with her brother. I realized that she's a teenager, but there were just times when I kind of wanted to thump her over the head and be like, ugh, you know what I mean? So, the other main character is Ashley's brother Derek. He is obviously the champion of the story because he is the one with the redemption arc. He stood by during her trial and even endorsed her rapist actions. So now he feels really guilty and he blames himself for his family falling apart. I really like Derek because he makes some major changes and he really turns inward and unpacks all of his guilt and, you know, how rape culture happens and how we as a society don't stop rape culture. So I really liked Derek, and he was way less annoying than his sister. I preferred his points of view, to be honest. As for the rest of the characters, they were pretty unmemorable. Her boyfriend was super generic, and her best friend was as well. They all kind of blend together. But it was pretty interesting to see how her family processed and channeled their grief. Tragedy doesn't only touch the victim, but it touches the victim's closest family and friends as well. So that was pretty interesting. I gave characters a 3 out of 5. Next, let's talk about world building. I think the author did a really good job of putting you in each moment. She really builds up the tension so that the atmosphere is really palpable. Because this is set in modern times, the world building really has to do with setting up Ashley being raped and then where her and Derek are now, which understandably is utter chaos. I think the author did a really good job of putting you in their heads so that you could really feel for these characters. For that reason, I gave world building a 5 out of 5 stars. Now let's talk about world building. This story is told in both past and present, so the story would flop between present day and anywhere from 2 years ago to 8 years ago. The flashbacks are clearly labeled so you always know when you're going backwards in time. Some people hate stories told like this, but I think the flashbacks were really helpful in giving you a picture of Ashley and Derek's childhood together and how they grew so far apart. I liked that each point of view is also clearly labeled and that the characters were different enough that you never confused the two. The sentence structure flowed well together and I think shows that this author has been writing for a while. I gave writing style a 4 out of 5. Finally, let's discuss personal enjoyment. This book was really intense and hard to read at times, but I understand the necessity of it. It's definitely a book that packs a powerful punch. I love the discussions it sparked and how it made me think. I didn't enjoy the parts that felt forced, but they weren't frequent enough to be a big deal. I gave personal enjoyment a 4 out of 5 stars. This makes my overall rating for Someone That I Used to Know 4 out of 5 stars. I hope this gets into as many teen hands as possible, whether it's to teach them a lesson about rape culture or just to let them know that as victims they are not alone. If you intend to pick this up, or maybe you've already picked it up, then please leave me a comment down below. Remember that my social media is always linked in the description. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'll see you in the stacks. Goodbye.